Today we're talking about dietary fat, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. Let's explore how what we eat affects our health. Let's start with the basics. Insulin resistance is when our bodies don't respond well to insulin, a hormone that helps control blood sugar. This can lead to a bunch of health issues, including the metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a group of risk factors that increase the likelihood of developing heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. This include obesity, high blood pressure, high fasting blood sugar, and high triglycerides. But what's the connection between our diet, especially the fats we eat, and these conditions? Let's find out. First up, the amount of fat we eat matters. Eating a lot of high-fat, energy-dense foods is strongly linked to being overweight, and carrying extra weight, especially around our belly, can make insulin resistance worse. But it's not just about how much fat we eat. Some people have a harder time burning dietary fat, which can make them more likely to gain weight. This video is based on several research articles. The links are listed in the comments. Now here's where it gets interesting. The type of fat we eat can affect our insulin sensitivity according to research. Even if we don't gain weight, it will affect our health in other ways. Let's break it down. Saturated fats are the bad guys when it comes to insulin resistance. They can make it worse. Foods high in saturated fats include things like butter, cheese, and fatty meats. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, these are the good guys. They can actually improve insulin sensitivity. You'll find these in foods like olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish. A big study called Kanwu showed that when people switched from a diet high in saturated fats to one high in monounsaturated fats, their insulin sensitivity improved. But adding a moderate amount of omega-3 fatty acids didn't seem to make a difference. Wait, there is more. But do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe down below. The type of fat we eat doesn't just affect insulin sensitivity. It can also influence other aspects of the metabolic syndrome, like blood pressure and blood lipid levels. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fatty fish, can help lower blood pressure in people who already have high blood pressure. But they don't seem to do much for people with normal blood pressure. Switching from saturated to monounsaturated fats can help lower diastolic blood pressure. That's the bottom number when you get your blood pressure checked. When it comes to blood lipids, omega-3 fatty acids can lower triglycerides, which is good. But they can also increase LDL cholesterol, which isn't so great. Replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats can lower both LDL cholesterol and triglycerides in people who are insulin resistant. So, what does all this mean for preventing metabolic syndrome? Well, there are two main goals. Number 1, maintain a healthy weight by reducing the energy density of our diet. This often means eating less fat overall. Number 2, improve insulin sensitivity and related metabolic issues by eating less saturated fat and more monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Number 3, add a lot more to your health by exercising regularly. That has a lot of benefits to blood sugar control as well as brain health. It can be just jogging along the road for 30 minutes a day. But hold on, it's not just about fat. Carbohydrates play a role too. Replacing carbs with monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats can lower fasting triglycerides, glucose, and blood pressure, and increase HDL cholesterol. That's the good cholesterol. This effect seems to be stronger in people without type 2 diabetes. Polyunsaturated fats might be even better than monounsaturated fats for this. And fish oil, which is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, seems to be the best of all. In one study, people with metabolic syndrome were put on different diets for 12 weeks. The diet high in omega-3 fatty acids reduced the prevalence of metabolic syndrome by 20.5%. That's compared to only about 10 to 12% for diets high in saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, or carbohydrates. Another interesting finding is that eating more dairy, which is high in saturated fat, is associated with a 6% lower risk of metabolic syndrome for each additional serving. This might be because eating more dairy often means eating fewer carbs. Speaking of carbs, the relationship between carb intake and triglycerides has been a hot topic for years. Some studies show that eating more carbs raises triglycerides, while others show the opposite. It might depend on the type of carbs, like how much fiber or sugar they contain, and the specific population being studied. One large study of people with type 2 diabetes found that those who ate more fat, over 35% of their calories, had higher triglycerides than those who ate less fat, under 25%. But those who ate more carbs, over 65% of calories, had lower triglycerides than those who ate fewer carbs, under 45%. This goes against what we've seen in many other studies, so more research is needed to understand why. A meta-analysis of 24 studies with 1,460 participants showed that replacing carbs with monounsaturated fats reduced fasting triglycerides by 0.31 mmol/L, and eating lots of fiber is linked to a 30% lower risk of metabolic syndrome. But when it comes to weight loss, high-fat diets might have a downside. A meta-analysis of studies on obese people found that those on high-fat diets had higher triglyceride levels by about 0.13 mmol/L compared to those on low-fat diets. One really interesting study looked at how different diets affected people with varying levels of insulin resistance. They found that for people who were very insulin resistant, diets high in monounsaturated fats or omega-3 fats lowered insulin levels more than a diet high in saturated fat. But for people who weren't very insulin resistant, all diets raised insulin and glucose levels, just less so with the monounsaturated and omega-3 fats. So what's the bottom line? Most studies show that replacing carbs with fat, especially unsaturated fat, can improve various markers of metabolic health. Polyunsaturated fats seem to be better than monounsaturated fats, and fish oil, rich in omega-3s, appears to be the best of all. But remember, nutrition is complex, and what works best can vary from person to person. If you're concerned about your risk for metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance, it's always best to talk to a healthcare professional or a registered dietitian. They can help you figure out the best eating plan for your individual needs. And hey, don't forget that diet is just one piece of the puzzle. Regular exercise, getting enough sleep, and managing stress are all important for metabolic health too. So take care of yourself, eat well, and stay active. Do not forget to click the like button and subscribe. On the screen, you see a few videos related to some other diabetes-related issues. Thanks very much for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.